You are watching the Notre Dame recruiting update each and every week with Mike Singer. For the first time in February, we join you today. We are back, and like Lil Wayne stated, after his highly anticipated, most recent Carter album, sorry for the wait, everybody. Had some surgery going on, but we are back here and excited to dive into Notre Dame recruiting, readdress what's going on here as we look to the class of 2024. Got some coaching news, obviously, to talk about that is going to affect the way that recruiting is done for the Fighting Irish as well. As we get into the show, guys, hit that like button for me, please. If you have not already, subscribe to the channel as well, and that's going to allow you to get in the comments section. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to get your questions as well, so be sure to get those in as the show goes on. I know we already have some from the message board, but Mike, as we get into the show today, how are you doing, man? How was your time off?
Great. No time off. I took when I was in Colorado, for it was almost 2 weeks. Only took a half day. So I was, I was out there for the whole Reese leaving, and I did a couple shows out there, and but yeah, it's been a while since you and I have done a show. I think it's about 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm super pumped to return this. I did like a 40-minute Q&A solo show, Trey. I don't know if I'm going to do one of those again. That was tough. I don't like just talking for 40 minutes straight. But glad to have my co-host back.
Well, it's great to be back, and we're excited to join you all as well. Sorry you had to go solo there, Mike, but you killed it, and you are the hardest working man in Notre Dame football and Notre Dame recruiting, so we appreciate the hustle. I know you couldn't even take the Super Bowl night off with some of the breaking news that was going on.
I mean, I still did. I just got it on the message board, and thankfully Patrick Engel was around to post it, and to get that article up about Harry Hiestand, of course, retiring from Notre Dame, and we'll certainly dive into the coaching stuff. But yeah, what a I always get people always ask me, Trey, like, what's the slowest time of the year in your job, Mike? And I always say it's February and July, and they're both dead periods. No spring ball, obviously no football season. Dead period means no coaches on the road, no recruits coming to campus, so there's just not a whole lot going on. This February was not slow. I think this time 2 years ago in February, I was in Mexico for a week, or no, Dominican, at a resort. I mean, I can't even imagine if I were on vacation when all this was happening. Absolutely a little crazy period.
Well, thankfully, we were around to cover it, and we appreciate you guys tuning into all the coverage there. Blueandgold.com, Blue and Gold YouTube as well. See some comments already. What is up, Joey? We got Nick Dean here as well, guys. Keep getting in there. And check out blueandgold.com. Just $29.99 for an entire year of coverage. $29.99. You're not going to find a deal like that anywhere in the world of Notre Dame football. But Mike, as we get into it, we talked about the coaches on our channel and, what it's going to mean for the program in general. But this is a recruiting show, so let's focus a little bit on what this means for recruiting. Gino Guidugli and Jared Parker, obviously now the two guys had the most buzz these last couple of weeks here, and we thought it might be Andy Ludwig. Weren't really sure what it was going to look like. Jared Parker gets the promotion. But let's start with Gino Guidugli. What do you think this is going to mean to Notre Dame as far as recruiting?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, Ludwig was, looking like he was going to come in as quarterbacks and offensive coordinator. I believe he's 58 years old, and I mean, age doesn't matter for recruiting, right? I mean, you can be 70 or you can be 25, and you can be a lazy recruiter, you can be an active recruiter. But typically, the older you get, the less you kind of want to deal with 16, 17-year-olds. Like, my dad's in his 60s. He doesn't like dealing with, even me, and I'm 29 years old. So, and putting up with my crap. But in all seriousness, Guidugli, he's got the gray hair, so he's got a little bit of experience. And he still has that energy. He fits the Marcus Freeman style of coach. Oh, wow. Look at this fancy graphic we have. Sorry, I was not expecting that.
We got surprises for you today, Mike. We're back.
I mean, he was super productive in high school. He threw 78 touchdowns at Cincinnati and over 11,000 passing yards. He's coached running backs, quarterbacks. He was going to be the tight ends coach at Wisconsin. He followed Luke Fickell from Cincinnati to Wisconsin. And then he jumped at that opportunity to coach the position he's much more comfortable with. And I'm sure I mean, he probably had to felt a little slighted, right? Like he was the OC at Cincinnati in this past season, and then they bring in Phil Longo from North Carolina as Wisconsin's offensive coordinator. So if I'm Gaduli, I'm probably thinking, man, like I'm probably not super thrilled about that. And then I get an opportunity to go, Wisconsin, Notre Dame. I'll take with Notre Dame, and be the quarterback's coach, which he's much more comfortable with that. And quarterbacks coaches are often the offensive coordinators. Now I know Jared Parker is not. Chip Long wasn't at Notre Dame, but typically, I'd say 80% of the time, if not more, the quarterbacks coach is the offensive coordinator. So if you're this hot shot Notre Dame quarterbacks coach, whether it's at Notre Dame or somewhere else, you're probably going to be an offensive coordinator soon. So I think this is a really good job for Gino Guidugli. Not only is a potential stepping stone for him to go be an offensive coordinator somewhere else, but again, maybe at Notre Dame. So again, when you look at this Marcus Freeman coaching staff from Guidugli to Parker, maybe Chris Watt on the offensive line, Al Washington, to Chris O'Leary and Mike Mickens, all of those guys worked with Freeman before he became the Notre Dame head coach. I can't remember the exact timeline on Watt, and it would have been at Notre Dame as defensive coordinator. I can't remember if he was at Tulane at that point. And then O'Leary was a graduate assistant, or no, he was the safeties coach. For Freeman when Freeman was defensive coordinator. But like Freeman's hiring these guys that he knows. He's taken some swings, right? He took a chance on a guy like Chancey Stuckey. He pulled Dylan McCullough out of Indiana. And of course, McCullough was the running backs coach for the Chiefs when they won their first title, a few years back. When I say first title, I mean like in this little era here. He went and got Al Golden from the Bengals. So he's going outside of his tree to make some of these hires that he really likes, but also he's saying, all right, who am I comfortable with? Who do I know that are going to kill it on the recruiting trail? Gino Guidugli, a source told me, who's worked with both of these guys in the past, that they're foxhole guys. Like, I mean, I want a foxhole guy. Trey Yannity, for me, is a foxhole guy. Like, I know Trey, just this week, Trey and I are talking about, hey, what new microphone do we want to get Mike Goolsby? Because Mike Goolsby has crappy audio. And we're like, I trust Trey Yannity. Now, if Trey if the microphone Trey picked for Goolsby is bad, then we'll have to reassess. But like a foxhole guy, that means a lot, right? I always say this with in this college football world, we just think of it like it's NCAA 14 or Madden 23. Like it's just numbers, right? Your overall, your speed, your acceleration, like it's just from 0 to 100. But it's not like it's just not like these are real people with real egos. You can have Jared Parker, who you're very familiar with and trust, and he's going to do a good job in your room. That chemistry, that camaraderie is really important. Whereas if you have a guy who's maybe more talented of a play caller than him, but doesn't fit, that's an overall negative for your program. And I'm not saying that was Tommy Rees. Maybe it was at times. But I just think that from, and I'm looking at this glass half full. I'm the first to admit that. But, you look at these two hires from Freeman's perspective, and they're guys he can trust. And that's obviously very important. Yeah. All right. Sticking back to the recruiting side of things and kind of getting into the nuts and bolts there, Gino Guidugli is going to be recruiting Chicago for Notre Dame. He's got ties there. He even recruited Cam Williams, Notre Dame's 2024 elite receiver commit. He was highly considering Cincinnati. CJ Carr even visited Cincinnati and had an offer from the Bearcats. But caliber of those guys, ended up at a group of 5 school, but did really like Guidugli and what he was pitching. So again, strong ties in Chicago. That's where Reese recruited. And, for folks watching this, like, were you impressed with Tommy Reese's, impact in Chicago? Just kind of meh. I think most Notre Dame fans will say that Notre Dame is lost out on some big time Chicago talent. I mean, you just look at, guys like Caleb Brown and Tyler Morris. What were they in the 22 recruiting class? Maybe Caleb Brown's 21. I can't remember, but some big time pass catchers out of there that Notre Dame was not able to get. So Yeah, Gaduli in Chicago. Parker will be involved with all the positions offensively. Obviously, he's been, helping recruiting quarterbacks in the interim period before, he was elevated, and then after Reese left. And he does a really good job for the Irish, in Tennessee, the Carolinas, Kentucky. He's I don't know how many people want to spend a couple days in Raleigh, Durham, recruiting and then going down to South, like not the most glamorous recruiting areas to recruit, but Parker does it, and he's done a really good job. So I actually had a story that I wrote this would have been last February when he was hired. I talked to someone close to, I was familiar with him as a recruiter, called him a war daddy. So I kind of updated that article at Blue and Gold, and yeah, I mean, being called a war daddy, and this is a story I highly recommend reading this if you're a subscriber of Blue and Gold. If you're not, like Trey mentioned, $29.99. Really diving into Parker, the recruiter, Gaduli, what my sources are saying. Have quotes from Cam Williams on Gaduli, Jack Larson, and Cooper Flanagan talk about Jared Parker being elevated. So some really good stuff. But yeah, being called a war daddy, I don't care what that is. That you're being called a war daddy for, but Trey, that's a compliment, man. Like, I want to be a war daddy. I don't know what it means, but I know I like it. All right, that's probably 6 minutes. I'm gonna take a sip of water.
I take a breath.
Did I cover everything and probably a little bit more than I did?
Beautifully, Mike, and I appreciate your trust. I can't be trusted with everything. I was gone out of my apartment for a month, and I came back to a bunch of rotten meat, so that's on me. But when it comes to microphones and that kind of stuff, I'm here for you.
I thought you said rat meat, and I was like, you said rotten meat?
Raw.
I mean,
yes,
that's to be expected. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, some things you just can't take care of from a distance. But, when you talk about Notre Dame recruiting, a lot of it is from a distance. And I think you feel confident in these two guys that are really comfortable with Notre Dame.
They're going to kill it. I really do think that they're going to go after. And I talked about this in our live show Wednesday with Tim Hyde. And by the way, next Wednesday, it's going to be me, Hyde, and Goolsby. So that's going to be one not to miss. Going to be a banger of a show. But, with Ludwig, you get that experience, but a little bit less on the recruiting trail. With Parker Gaduli combo, and again, they're not co-OCs, but I mean, they're kind of leading the offense moving forward. You get that not as much experience, but still some gray hair, which is important, but super energetic on the recruiting trail. So yeah, the comment from ND Football 24/7, like, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes. So, you get the more elite talent versus, maybe not so much and have to coach them up. So I'm looking at this glass half full for sure. I don't think Jared Parker was anyone's first choice. Gino Gaduli as a quarterback's coach. I think you can be pretty excited about that one. Parker, I get on paper, it's not the sexiest hire. But for all those reasons I stated earlier, I think it's still one to be, pretty optimistic about.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And I mean, you say it wasn't their first choice. It wasn't, but this is not something I think you get upset about. I think you still feel very comfortable and excited to see how it goes. I agree as well. Raleigh, Durham, maybe not the best area to go to as far as recruiting, but as far as barbecue, they have the vinegar base up there, and that is the best in the country.
So. Oh, don't get me started on vinegar. I am a huge fan of vinegar sauce.
Oh,
all my favorite sauces are all vinegar based. Like,
I was gonna say, we got a lot of mustard based people coming around nowadays. And
love some Carolina Golden. Oh, come on.
It's good, but nothing beats the vinegar base.
All of it. Oh, just give me all of it, man. I'm so excited.
We go down the food rabbit hole way too often on this show, so we'll bring it back to recruiting and save it for the end there. We got details on 2 new predictions.
Yeah.
2024, Kingston, Villamau Asa, and Caleb Brewer. What do you know about these two guys, and what are these predictions looking like here? We got Lexington Barbecue as a shout out in the comments. I've never really heard that.
Yeah, but if we're going to talk about, going on the road recruit, I mean, St. Louis Barbecue, Texas Barbecue. So, I mean, there's a lot of good barbecue across the country. But anywho, I love both. But yeah, I'll take vinegar. Yeah, so Kingston, this is funny. So we just posted our or published our. I wish it was in walking distance. I mean, it's within reaching distance. Our Blue and Gold Illustrated magazine, the recruiting one with Drake Bowen on the cover. I can see it, but I'd have to get up to go get it. So I'm writing an article for that about, it's like a 3-page spread on 2024 recruiting. We called our offers and overviews, like projected take, who's committed, what's the outlook at each position. And at linebacker, I mentioned Kingston, and I was like, yeah, this one's trending away from Notre Dame. That's what I wrote. And then maybe half hour later, I was on the phone with the source, and they're like, Mike, you might want to think about putting in a prediction for him to go to Notre Dame. I was like, bull crap. So then I changed the article, and I write, oh, he may be trending to Notre Dame. I was able to edit that in time. And then I talked to, a source about a week after that, and was like, dude, Kingston to Notre Dame is looking really good. Just clicking with the staff. Like, he hasn't been to Notre Dame since April, but basically what I was told was like, he might not even need to visit again, for him to commit to Notre Dame. Like, he absolutely loves the Fighting Irish. So he's got a connection with junior Tubi Halamaka, Notre Dame. I don't even know what position junior's. Is he a Viper? Is he a linebacker? I don't know what junior's at these days, but he's close with junior. That just Polynesian linebacker tradition at Notre Dame is always strong. You look at a guy like Manti Te'o. So Kingston, I logged my prediction for him to go to Notre Dame. It's a heavyweight battle. USC, Ohio State, Bama recently offered him. Coast to coast, schools are after him, but my sources feel pretty good that he's going to end up at Notre Dame. So, I don't know if we'll get out to Notre Dame this spring for an unofficial, but I absolutely expect them to take an official. And again, I like Notre Dame to land him. Otherwise, I wouldn't put in the prediction. And someone asked me on the message board today, like, hey, Mike, if Notre Dame lands Kingston, what does that mean for Peyton Woodyard, who is just one of the best safety prospects in the country, a kind of distant relative to Kyle Hamilton, of course, former Notre Dame safety and currently plays for the Baltimore Ravens. So the poster asked me, like, hey, what does that mean for Woodyard? And I was like, it's a good question. And my response was, it obviously doesn't hurt. And Notre Dame is going after Woodyard still. They stopped by his high school, obviously for Kingston, but also for Peyton to kind of show him that, hey, we're still recruiting you and we still love you, even though you committed to Georgia in January. And those two, Kingston and Peyton, actually were at Notre Dame for the spring game last year. They also stopped in at our Blue and Gold office in South Bend too. So if you see a picture of Kingston on his On3 profile, and he's got a yellow wall behind him, I was taken by me in our Blue and Gold office. Got to meet those families, and both recruits really cool people. But yes, I mean, these guys are tight. So I think that could help Notre Dame flip Peyton Woodyard, which is obviously a nice development if that were to happen, one of the best safeties in the class. So that's kind of the pick for Kingston. Top 100 recruit per the On3 consensus. I mean, Notre Dame's landed some big-time linebackers under Marcus Freeman. This would definitely be up there.
Yeah, I mean, and you love how you can get the 2-for-1 on recruiting as well, all the way out in California. So we'll wait and see about those two. But Kingston Villamasa, you see it there, 6'2", 205 as he's listed. And, who knows by the time he gets to South Bend if that is ultimately where he ends up. Wyoming was stolen, Mike. Wyoming High School is the home of Caleb Brewer, the interior offensive lineman. A 3-star, he's listed at On3. But, if you look at our RPM machine, heavily favored to Notre Dame. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought it was probably going to be Penn State. Penn State does a good job keeping their players in their backyard, but, and just talking to some folks connected here, I felt a little weird putting in a prediction for a player when his offensive line coach, wouldn't even, man, look at him catching passes here. Maybe you can just play tight end for Jared Parker, but Notre Dame doesn't have an offensive line coach right now. But basically what I was told was, doesn't matter. Like, he is all Notre Dame. Is he really just playing a bunch of tight end? He's got some Joe Alt in him, maybe. Joe Alt played tight end when he was a junior. So maybe Caleb Brewer's got some, Joe Alt in him. Yeah, I mean, my sources are raving here about where Notre Dame's at. I don't get the sense that Penn State's doing the best job recruiting them. So, excuse me. So just those things combined just feel like Notre Dame is going to land them. It's maybe a bit of a bold pick at this point, but just in my conversations with him, what people close to the Irish football program are saying, and then the fact that Penn State, whether it's I don't know, not clicking with him or they're just not recruiting him super hard, just like all those reasons make me put in the pick. I've been watching a lot of Shark Tank recently, so I keep saying, like, every time I say for those reasons, I just want to say I'm out. I just really want to say that, but it doesn't make sense with the show. But
No, you can't be out on a kid like this. But an excellent TV program there as well. And, Penn State, obviously, in his backyard, even kind of wearing the Penn State uniforms at
right,
his high school. Hopefully, you can get him in some Notre Dame blue and gold as well. But, Mike, real quick before we move on, just with all the OC shakeup, everything going on with these coaches, how much of an impact does that make in the long run of this class? It's still February, but is it, how much does that shake things up?
it's hard to predict like what exactly it's going to look like down the road. What's Parker and Gadouli's exact imprint on the class in terms of like who they go after moving forward, because obviously the players they've offered now, the class is going to, I mean, like half of the class is going to be players we haven't even heard of, right? Or maybe a little bit less than half, but still. So there's a lot to be determined there. But in terms of like where things are at now, no, it's no impact. Peter Jones, another offensive lineman who committed to, or I should say a offensive lineman, Brewer hasn't committed yet, but like an offensive lineman who committed to Notre Dame over Penn State and Pennsylvania. Tough week for him, right? He loses his offensive line coach and his quarterback's coach. Well, 8 or 9 day period. He's good. I contacted him. He's like, can't wait to see who they hire next. I'm sure he's probably thinking in his mind, like, man, if they botch this hire, I could be out. Or, I'm sure other schools are contacting him like crazy. But yeah, he's good. He's solid with Notre Dame. I'm just like, it's amazing. And I think it speaks volumes, not only the type of kid Notre Dame recruits, but also like the continuity with the recruiting office and Marcus Freeman. Like, it's not just one coach, it's the entire staff. And then also, I always say this about Notre Dame recruiting, the guys who commit early are the ones who need no explanation for Notre Dame, right? The good old Lou Holtz quotes, those who know Notre Dame, you don't need an explanation. Those who don't understand Notre Dame, no explanation will suffice. I know I butchered that, but you guys know the quote. So it kind of goes back to that. Like, these guys commit to Notre Dame early because they know Notre Dame. Like, you have decommits every year, but it's usually the ones who commit early are the ones who are the most solid because they're committing to Notre Dame for Notre Dame, and that's what we're seeing here. But then when you even look at the targets board, it's been pretty. I haven't really noticed much change. It's the offensive lines, they're kind of just plugging along as is. Nothing's really. No differences, really. I mean, the only thing I would say is they did offer a couple of offensive linemen, and Andrew Sprague and Brandon Baker, a couple big-time guys, the day after Harry Heastan left, which was kind of the staff's way of saying, Harry didn't love these guys, but we do, and we're going to offer them even without an offensive line coach. But, yeah, otherwise it's kind of been just, like, plugging along.
Yeah, congratulations to Harry Heastat on his retirement, but it was immediate. It was as soon as they could, they sent out those offers there. And like you said, I think it is a lot about relationships to these guys, even with all the coaching changes going on. But there's certainly some brand power with the Fighting Irish that I think keeps these kids enticed as well. That's how we started the show. Nick Dean with a comment, hope all of our guys stay committed. I think, it's reason to be nervous at times when you have coaching changes, a carousel to an extent. It might keep you up a little bit at night, but what's going to put you right back to sleep? The Rogue Shop. It is time to hear from one of maybe our best sponsor, a husband and wife outfit, as Mr. Rogue and his wife share are craft cannabis farmers. They specialize in small batch, sustainable plant medicine. And guys, this is a truly holistic type of small business. They farm it, they grow it all themselves. They do everything by hand. All you have to do is go visit them at their website, rogueshop.com, ROGUE shop.com. You're going to get CBD, THC edibles, tinctures, smokables, bath salts, pain creams, topicals, vapes, candles, soaps, and more. and their website is 24/7. They have a chat function on there. Customers can ask questions, figure out what you need exactly to help you. This is truly, guys, a small business, mom and pop, but they're doing it the right way and they're trying to help you guys out. Again, that's rogueshop.com, ROGUE shop, SHOP.com. Go check them out today. If you have issues sleeping, chronic pain, or any kind of anxiety or stress, you're going to want to use the code Blue and Gold, BLUE and Gold for 10% off of your order. Guys, please go check them out today. Look at that selection there.
I don't know most of the stuff, but it looks great.
Well, Mike, you strike me as a guy that would. No, this is really an excellent service here. Again, guys, rogueshop.com. And if you haven't already, hit that like button for me as we continue on here. We've had barbecue, we have had predictions, we've had all kinds of stuff on the show so far. And excited to tell you about our sponsor there as well, but excited to keep it moving as we now get to talk about some spring visitors. Listed on our rundown is the 4 most important spring visitors for Notre Dame so far: John Mitchell, that's Jon. Kennedy Urlacher, I don't know if there's a relation to Brian. I'll let you explain there, Mike. Logan Thomas and Peyton Pierce. These guys, in your opinion, the 4 most important spring visitors.
Yeah. The Urlacher one, like, if your last name's Urlacher, you better be related to Brian, right? And he is. It's the son of Brian Urlacher. So yeah, that's a big one for Notre Dame. That's another one where I like him to land at Notre Dame. Monday, I'm actually doing for my gold standard, I'm doing my mock class. I only do one. I think I do a January, February one, and then I'll do another one like going into the summer, maybe like a April or May. So this is a big one. This mock class coming out, so make sure you check that out. And I think when I went and looked back at my mock class from last year, of course I include the committed guys, right? You're projecting the committed guys in there, but otherwise, like, I hit on it was like a 50% accuracy on like the targets, that's obviously really difficult to predict, 10, 11 months from National Signing Day. But Urlacher is someone who's seen his recruitment blow up a good bit this winter, and Notre Dame, obviously one of those schools. And when a kid from Arizona sets up one visit and it's to Notre Dame, and you talk to him and he just is a really well-spoken, smart kid, you're like, I could see this one working out for Notre Dame. So a pretty good athlete, striker, and a good player. I don't know if he'll hit like his dad, but quite a solid player. And yeah, I mean, I remember when I'm playing Madden 04, on my PS2, and I just love playing with the Bears, just being Brian Urlacher. Brian Urlacher and Zach Thomas were my two of my favorite players growing up. And I guess I liked linebacker play when I was a kid. And yeah, now I'm covering his son, which, even though I'm 29, makes me feel a little old, but pretty cool as well. So yeah, Kenny Urlacher, a pretty important one. John Mitchell from Florida. I've written a ton about him recently, and I feel like, not everyone is writing about him as much as in terms of like some of my competitors. Like, I think everyone needs to get on this one. Like, this is a huge target for Notre Dame. And I wrote an article, it was just Lucky Charms the other day, kind of focusing in on him and talking to some sources close to him and on the Notre Dame side of things. I'll give you one quote from somebody. Notre Dame is the leader in the clubhouse. How does that sound? I mean, this is a big time player. I mean, going into Florida and potentially getting a cornerback with offers from Alabama and Florida State and all those heavy hitters and stuff. That sounds pretty good. It's going to be a battle. I know that Notre Dame sources felt really good. Then Alabama offers, and you're just like, oh man, here comes Alabama. It's arguably the best defensive back school in the country right now. But I'm still told that Notre Dame's in pretty good shape here, and his visit to South Bend is the weekend of March 25th. Highly academic family. That bodes well for Notre Dame. So I can't remember the last recruit Notre Dame got out of Jacksonville, Florida, but This would be a huge one if it works out for the Fighting Irish. And then, yeah, a couple more guys. Peyton Pierce. I have a prediction in for him to land at Notre Dame. So a combination of Pierce and Kingston. How'd you pronounce his last name? Trey did a really good job.
I appreciate it. I'm not 100% sure it was correct, so I'm a little bit worried to try to do it again here. But Viliamu Asa, I
That's
believe, is
really almost, yeah. That would be quite the pairing. So Pierce was very tight with James Laurinaitis, who of course left for Ohio State, and Pierce is closely considering. I'm just fighting off a yawn, and I'm just really struggling here. I need some coffee. Laurinaitis leaving for Ohio State impacts this recruitment. But you bring in Max Bulla, who has not the same kind of pedigree as James Laurinaitis, in terms of his playing days, but as a grad assistant, a really strong hire to replace Laurinaitis, and played for Michigan State. Where did Bulla play? Houston, and I want to say for a few years. So Peyton Pierce getting back to Notre Dame in April. He visited Notre Dame in June. This past October, he was on campus in January. So 4 visits in less than a year. That's a pretty good track for Notre Dame to end up winning this recruitment. So Fighting Irish, I do give them the lead right now, but you got Texas and Oklahoma still battling for him. Last but not least, another kid from Texas, Logan Thomas, from the Houston area, really blew up in January. We dominated at the All-American Bowl Combine in San Antonio. I was there. He's a fantastic player. Notre Dame offered him a few days after, and they've been on him. And Thomas is now set up to visit. I want to say it's the 22nd of March. I can't remember the exact date. But yeah, that'll be a big visit for the Fighting Irish to get him in South Bend. Someone that the staff really likes. He's got visits locked in: Texas Tech, Notre Dame, Oklahoma. You figure all those schools, in the South Central part of the country will be involved, but Notre Dame absolutely loves him. And Notre Dame didn't get that true Viper in the 2023 recruiting class, so you definitely want it in 2024, at least a couple, right? And Logan Thomas is definitely up there as one.
Yeah, and you see it all there in the Southwest: Oklahoma, Texas Tech, Houston, A&M. It speaks volumes about Notre Dame to be on that list as well. And some of his highlights coming through a chain link fence. So, he's gritty. We got a yawn break from Mike. He is back. The late night sport night was obviously a little bit too much for Mr. Singer. But as we begin to wrap it up here, Mike, I kind of want to close it out with some of the questions that we had laid out from our message board. Let's start with Aerofan624, the Ludwig saga. Does this become a dangerous negative recruiting tool? We talked about this a little bit, but I like the end of this question. Is it about Notre Dame being cheap?
This is a good question, but I'm thinking about this, right? All right, let's say I'm a 4-star receiver from Georgia or something, and I don't know who's negatively recruiting. Let's just say Oklahoma or Texas. Some school in the Big 12 or SEC. I don't know what you call what conference they're in these days. But they're like, hey, Notre Dame cheaped out on hiring Andy Ludwig and I'm that receiver. I'm just thinking, like, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't care what you're talking about. Like, you think that some 16, 17-year-old kid is going to sit around and understand the Andy Ludwig saga? Hell no. This doesn't mean anything. I'm thinking about if Oklahoma has an hour to talk to me on the phone and they're going to spend 10 minutes talking about the Andy Ludwig saga, they're doing a horrible job recruiting. I'm thinking to myself, do you want to talk to me about how you're going to get me the football? What the hell do I care about Andy Ludwig saga at Notre Dame? So no, no. I don't think there's any world of it where college is going to be like, Notre Dame is cheap. Look at the Andy Ludwig saga. I mean, no, I'm sorry.
Maybe with coaches, this could be a negative recruiting tool to
with
recruit them, but
coaches.
with
Yeah,
players,
but high school,
yeah,
hell no.
yeah,
No,
no.
I mean, you could talk about NIL in general. This picture, by the way, is the offensive line coach. I don't know why. Well, the author of that is the wrong photo. Notre Dame didn't want to bring in the offensive line coach as well. And, there's the whole buyout thing. But also, the buyout thing is like people are also refuting that was a thing. Now, you can talk about is that damage control or what, but still, it's just. You're kidding. Like no 17-year-old is going to say, I care about the Andy Ludwig situation. They're not like Notre Dame is investing plenty in their football program to these kids. Like it's the most non-discussion for high school recruiting. Again, if you want to talk about NIL and being like, oh, Notre Dame's not doing enough in NIL, we can have that discussion. But for the Andy Ludwig thing to be the topic for high school recruiting, the most ridiculous thing. Like it's again, it's a fine question. I'm glad you asked it. I hadn't thought about it. But for people to say, Mike, you're spinning it, bro. Kids care about getting on the field and playing football. And yeah, they care about NIL. We can have that discussion. But the Andy Ludwig, like, how does Notre Dame being cheap on their offensive coordinator gonna like? I don't care who the offensive coordinator is. He gonna get me the football? That's what I care about. How do I connect with the coach? That's what I care about. Tell me about the academics. Like, yeah. Next question.
Well,
Great
I
question, by
mean,
the
there's
way,
those
but
four
yeah.
stars. No, you are all good, Mike. It's blow off the steam here. You got those 4 stars, 5 stars that are just bound to be finance majors that are obviously studying this very closely and are probably going to get swung. But other than that, I don't think this affects many people. Is Notre Dame being cheap? I don't know, but I do know that one place that is shockingly cheap for the value and the selection is Augie's Locker Room. If you're a passionate Notre Dame fan and you're looking for the special Notre Dame piece to complete your rec room, you're going to want to go to Augie's Locker Room and augieslockerroom.com. They have a wide selection of Notre Dame Stadium pieces, jerseys, helmets, autographs, one-of-a-kind Rock Me items. You can even find an exclusive Joe Montana signed item if you want it. Famous sculptor Jerry McKenna has all kinds of miniature replicas of the bronze statues around the stadium. And if Augie doesn't have it, he's going to find it for you. All you have to do is visit augieslockerroom.com or stop in and go see him 1811 South Bend Avenue. You can check out the vintage helmet display dating all the way back to 1890. That's 1890. augieslockerroom.com. Call them if you'd like, 574-277-INDY. I can't think of it, Mike. I have no idea what numbers Indy works out to, but they have a keyboard on there for a reason. 574-277-INDY. Augie's Locker Room, 1811 South Bend Avenue, and augieslockerroom.com. What's your favorite piece here, Mike? You got to pick one right now.
This is so cool right here. I wish this one weren't sold out, but that helmet is just absolutely sick right here. With it being signed by Joe Montana, I mean, come on. I mean, you know how I feel about this. This Kyle Hamilton jersey sold out again. Did Mike Singer buy it? Is he even wearing it right now? Is Mike Singer wearing that right now? He's wearing green. No, I'm not. But did Mike Singer buy it? The world will never know.
We'll leave them wondering, at least for now. Let's get to a couple more here as we close it out.
I have to. There is a comment right. I wanted to pop up about this one. They care about winning, the players. So if you get a good OC, it'll help you win. Yeah, for sure. But the discussion is about Notre Dame being cheap and that being used against Fighting Irish on the recruiting trail. Bro, no. That's no. Good OC, important, but you shouldn't go to Notre Dame because they're not spending more money on their offensive coordinator, or like, no.
Saga for a reason. There's too much back and forth, and it didn't work out, but it will not affect these kids. I'm glad we could get to Ryan B's question. He is a fellow supporter of the vinegar-based sauce. So thank you for being here, Ryan. Thank you for commenting.
I do want to say, by the way, I don't think Drunk Vigo's in here, but Liverpool, we got a big game tomorrow against top 4 Newcastle.
Mike, you already know about my scarf.
How about United Barcelona in the Europa League? yesterday. It was a great game. I only got to watch the first half, which was the boring half. But you got two European powers like United and Barcelona. They're playing in not the Champions League, the Europa League. Tough times, but United is having a fantastic season. They beat the crap out of Liverpool earlier this season. I think we'll get them at Anfield, but Mike, no one cares about European soccer. One, you can exit out of the show. You don't have to watch. But two,
we appreciate you being here.
I'm pretty sure everyone cares. I mean, worldwide, it is, I would guess is the most followed league, the Champions League in the world. So I don't care about hockey. People care about hockey. I don't give a crap about hockey. It's just to each their own. We all care about Notre Dame recruiting. That's why we're here.
We do. We share a love for that. Football is slowly invading Europe. So it's going to be kind of fun to see how that ends up there. Maybe a team in London.
NASCAR. Oh, yeah, NASCAR. Very exciting stuff. Turn left.
If you want this show to go an hour and a half, we can start talking about NASCAR, but I don't think anybody wants that. To finish it out here, let's get to a question from NJ Native 140. Your gut feeling, does Notre Dame promote Watt, or do they go after the best available offensive line coach that fits Parker's style?
One, I'll say it could be one and the same, right? It could be. I was told that Notre Dame was really talking to Chris Watt. If you want to call it an interview, I don't know what that looks like. Hey, Chris, come in here in my office. Like I don't know, what that looks like when they're already on staff. But right now, I would say the betting favorite is Chris Watt. Otherwise, it's been pretty quiet. They could be talking to dozens of offensive line candidates. It could just be I don't know. So my gut feeling right now would say that they promote Chris Watt. And look, for folks like I'm talking to you here, like it's like, oh, Chris Watt, really? We could have gone and got Andy Heck or some big time name. I get it, but that's it's up to you. Like, do I trust Marcus Freeman on this or do I not? I mean, it could be a great hire. You don't know. It could be a disaster hire. How many of you were pissed when Brian Kelly elevated Tommy Reese, who had never been an offensive coordinator? A good bit of you, and he did pretty well at Notre Dame. I mean, it's a different discussion for a different day. He did well enough to get picked up by Nick Saban in Alabama. So, it's just one of those things, man. It's like, Freeman knows more about this than we all do combined. Do you trust him to make the right decision? I just don't think you can poo-poo on something first when we just don't know. Freeman doesn't know if that's going to be a great hire or not. You just don't know until you play to win the game. Practice. We ain't talking about practice. We're talking about the game, right? So I gotta wait.
Let's wait and see. And unfortunately, you guys are going to have to wait 7 days until we are back for the Notre Dame recruiting update next Friday. But thank you all for joining our show today. Thank you guys for getting in the comments, for hitting that like button. Do it again if you haven't already on the way out. I don't know if you can like it twice, but if you can, like it twice, maybe 3 times, 4 times, and
go watch our other stuff. Go watch our other videos. Like those.
Please, guys, go check it out. We're going to have another video coming out on some of these new coaching hires later on today. Content throughout the weekend and all kinds of stuff at blueandgold.com as well. $29.99. That's going to give you all access, guys, to everything Notre Dame football. Until next week, for Mike Singer, my name is Trey Yanity. This has been the Notre Dame Recruiting Update. Have a great weekend, everybody.